Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC show. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table, as always, by my good friends, Miss Jackie Gailey.
Hi, everyone.
And from the timeshare store, Mr. Jerry Saito.
Hello.
And hope you're having a good week. Just a couple things. Our show is brought to you by the timeshare store, also known as DVCstore.com. And want to make sure we get their phone number out there, 1-800-550-6493. Also, you're going to want to sign up for their email blast. They're doing a promotion this month. I think we're going to do it for the next few months. Randomly giving away a $50 gift card, a Disney gift card to someone who signs up for the email blast. So you can find that on their website, dvcstore.com, or you can check them out on Facebook. Follow them on Facebook, and we'll have links to that in the show notes page as well. Also, want to give a shout out to the Disney Vacation Club forums on disboards.com, my lifeline in learning about DVC. It has been so cool. What a great community of folks are on those boards. Some really interesting threads are on there. I'm always finding something. And, our show today is about how many points should I buy? And that's a question I think a lot of people ask. And I was feeling really, I'm a new DVC member. I really just started the end of February. I was feeling very self-conscious that, I bought a lot of points. I bought very, very small contract direct, and then I did 3 contracts. I've done 3 contracts now through the timeshare store. And I was feeling really self-conscious about my 755 points. Well, I come across this thread, and we'll have a link to this in the show notes as well. Came across this thread on the DVC forums, the 1,000 Point Club. And this is a list of people on the boards who have more than 1,000 points. And I think one person has like 5,500 points. And then you were telling me you have a number of clients that are at the maximum number.
Right, yeah, they have 8,000.
8,000 points.
Yeah.
Oh, my, I never knew.
That's the max.
Yeah. You could do 4,000 per resort, and then whatever. 4,000 per resort. That's the max.
But 4,000 at one resort, and then 8,000 in total.
Total, correct.
And what do you do with 8,000 points?
Live at Disney, I would imagine.
I'm telling you.
I mean, it could be worse. I mean, you could stay at like every place for, a month or so.
Well, I know that, I've talked to people who are business owners, things like that. They use their points to like bonus their employees.
Right. Oh, sure.
And do incentives and things like that. I know people rent them out. They do all sorts of things with them. But I thought, for those that aren't going to be in the 1,000 Point Club or even the 8,000 Point Club, it would be good to talk about how many points to buy. And I think, like, what I'm seeing, and Jerry, you're more of an expert with this by far than I am, but what I've been seeing is that when people go in initially to make their first purchase, they're really, really conservative.
Right.
And they, especially if they don't do their research, they're very conservative, and they tend to buy these small contracts.
Right.
And then once they start using them, and we have to do an entire show on add-on-itis.
Yeah. Well, I almost encourage sometimes the small conservative purchase. The reason being is it's an investment that you're really not sure about. It's something new, so you're possibly uncomfortable with that whole idea of, are we really going to use this? Is it as good as I hope it's going to be? Is it something that my family's going to benefit from? So starting small, it's not too much of a financial obligation. You get in, you start going, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I get it. I'm going to buy more. So then you're a little bit more comfortable with
that.
That
does make sense.
Yeah.
That does make sense.
Sometimes people hear the timeshare thing and they're like, gosh, like you said, they're not sure. They're not sure they're going to use it. They're not sure that they're going to use enough of it.
Well, they what I read a lot on the boards when people ask this question, people say, well, A, buy where you want to stay. because that 11-month window matters.
Yeah.
And especially if what you're looking at are studios, because if you're looking at virtually any of the more popular resorts, Grand Floridian, Polynesian, Bay Lake Tower, Beach Club, Boardwalk even, those studios, by the time that 7-month window opens, they're gone.
Yeah.
They're gone. If you're not in at 11 months on a lot of those studios, you're not going to get it.
It's very spotty at 7 months. So you might get in, but you might have to alter your dates. You might have to keep calling. You might be on a wait list. So it's just best, if you know the resort you want to be at, just have that 11-month window and take advantage of it.
And, so like I figured out for me, based on what I want to use the points for, which is some for myself, some for my family, on the occasion that these guys do a good job, some for them. But I looking at the scarcity of the studios and the fact that it's not likely that I'm going to book 11 months out. There might be certain occasions where I do that. But generally speaking, I can be very flexible because A, I live here. Right. B, I do this for a living. C, I own my own business, so I can say, yeah, I'm going to go over there next week. So my situation's a little different, but I figured out roughly what I would need based on a 1-bedroom, because those are easier to come by than the studios are. The studios are the first ones to go. So, taking, what I see being advised on the boards, take a look at what your current vacation pattern is. Do you come every year? Do you come every 2 years, every 3 years? And what do you want to do with them? Think about the size unit you're really going to want, because I'll tell you, I think once you go to a 1-bedroom, you don't want to go back to a studio.
It's so true. Yeah, that extra space and the luxury of having a kitchen, having the washer and dryer, just having the privacy that you need sometimes, or your children need sometimes. They take a nap and you're out in the living room. The 1-bedrooms are awesome.
Yeah. And
really nice, yeah.
Did my first stay at Boulder Ridge a few weeks ago. We're going to have that video going up shortly. And it was with my mom. We had a 2-bedroom. And I'm looking for what that 2-bedroom cash price was. $1,200 a night. Jeez. For that.
Ouch.
And then you look at the points you're spending on it. You're like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. I'm not going to give my review of that yet. That'll come in a later show. But so... yeah, I knew I made the right choice with how I was planning out my points. I'm just, I've said this to Jerry before. I'm the guy that instant gratification takes too long. So I tend to go all in. I'm very, I say there is no 5 on the dial with me. It's either 0 or 10. So once I decided I was going to do this, I was going to do it. But the nice thing too about this, and I understand your point about doing the smaller contract and stuff, but one of the things that does help me in the decision-making process is that I know the resale value of these is really, really, really good.
Right.
Unlike most other timeshares. I mean, these not only retain their value, in some cases, they become more valuable.
Right.
The price has only gone up. I don't think there's any examples where the price of Disney Vacation Club has gone down.
It hasn't.
It's only ever gone up. So, and there's a robust resale market. So, what about you? When you decided to buy in, how did you decide how many points you needed, and is it enough?
Well, what we did, so one of the things, like Pete was saying, the 11-month window really matters. So what we looked at is we planned our vacation a year in advance. So we knew, because there were a lot of us, so everybody had to request time off of work. And so we knew we were going to be planning that far ahead of time. So we wanted to make sure that we bought where we knew that the villas could accommodate all of us. And we wanted to make sure that we had enough to do a big vacation every other year in a big accommodation. So, because that was about what we did regularly and just paid cash for it. And then the vacation was over, and we had wonderful memories and great photo books and all of this, but there was a lot of money spent. I mean, for the 8 of us, it was upwards of maybe $8,000, including park tickets and food and all of that. I mean, it was a lot, airfare, everything. So when we looked at Disney Vacation Club, we looked at the past few times that we all went as a family, and we looked at the points chart, and we said, okay, if we want to go every other year as a big group, how many points do we need to be able to play with? And so the fun part about Disney Vacation Club is that you can bank your current year, and then you can the following year you can, when
borrow.
You get your next allotment, you can actually use up to 3 years worth of points at a time. So like if we just got our new set of points on April 1st. So if we're not planning a family vacation for this year, we're going to bank those. And then next year, when we get our next set of points, we're going to have 400. And then I can borrow the 200 from 2021. So I have 600 points to plan a family vacation in a 3-bedroom villa.
Yeah.
Which is really a nice chunk of points.
Right.
Now, if you don't think you're going to go that often, it's really, that's why we always say it's such a personal choice on how many, because you really have to look at it. I mean, it's the research is required. I know people, they want to just, how many do you have? Maybe that's how many I need. They don't necessarily want it, but you have to make the investment in the research because it's important.
Well, I think there's like key questions to know. It's how many people do you typically travel with? What time of year do you tend to travel? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be exact, but just a ballpark, like, what are your past habits and will they be your future? And what size accommodations do you think you're going to need? And you kind of look at the point charts and you determine, okay, we do this time of year. There's usually 4, there's usually 6, there's usually however many. And then you say, okay, we need this many points to accommodate that. I would recommend buying slightly a little bit more than that because it gives a buffer. You have a couple extra nights you could do, or stay in a larger room if you need it, or whatever. If you have leftover points, you can bank them. So
and you never know when somebody's going to have a baby. If you have, if you have a younger family, if you have, you don't know if you're looking ahead. It depends on your family and who you travel with, and and it also, you have to look at where you live. Do you like, this might sound kind of funny to some people, but even your occupation, if you're a teacher you can only get certain times of the year off, and you don't really plan your vacations an entire year ahead of time, and you're going to be at that 7-month window, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to how many points you buy, because if you can't plan your vacations more than like 6 months in advance, depending on how many people you
enjoy Saratoga Springs.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Key West, Animal Kingdom, Saratoga, but typically it's going to be Saratoga.
And a bigger accommodation.
Yeah.
Like even the studios in 1-bedroom sell out pretty quickly. So, 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom is usually what I find the most availability on, unless I do a wait list. So you got to kind of look at that too. Like everything in your whole life comes into play when you're talking about a big vacation.
Right. And one of the things that I see people talking about too is that they'll say either, we're a young family and our kids are very young, so we know we're going to do this over a certain amount of time, and, so this is what's going to work for us for the foreseeable future. But then you have people that are like, okay, well, our kids are like 13 and 15, and once the kids go off to college, my wife and I are going to want to, or my husband and I are going to want to go by ourselves. So we'll need different type of accommodations. And so a lot of these factors go into it.
So that being said, that's a good point. So you can buy multiple contracts. Let's say you're buying and you need 300 points this time, for this type of vacation that you're going to be doing. You can buy a 150 and a 150, knowing that the kids are 13 and 15. They're going to go to college. Things are going to change. You're going to possibly downsize. You could sell a portion. So whatever size you buy, that has to be resold. But if you buy a 150 point contract and another 150 for a 300 point total, When you do downsize, you can sell 150 because you bought it in 2 increments, and keep the other package for that downsizing.
And I think that's a good point to raise too. That if you buy 300 points, a 300-point contract, you can't just decide later on I'm going to sell 150 of those and keep it. You have to buy. Whatever contract you have is what you have to sell.
Correct.
So that
can't be broken up. It has to be sold at whatever denomination or increment you bought it in. So having multiple contracts is not necessarily a bad thing because you can downsize, you can will it to your children or heirs or friends or whoever. But yeah, having that is not a bad option.
So that I think is, that at least that was my process in trying to figure out how I was going to use it, what I envisioned. And I'll be honest, I'm starting to map out because, we have the 20th anniversary of Dreams Unlimited travel event coming up in August. I've got some family coming down. I've got some friends coming down, and I'm taking a look at, what I can book for them in that. There's some things I want to do. And I'm like, okay, you know what? $750 may not be enough, for that. But then again, like I said, I have a large family. They come down on a regular basis.
Yeah, and typically as a rule of thumb for size, if you're going to do a week and you want a studio, I would say around 120 to 150 points would be good for a week in a studio. If you're going to do a 1-bedroom, I'd say 200 to 250 is where you need to be. If you're going to do 2 bedrooms, I'd say at least 300, 350. And again, you can look at the charts and kind of determine. But that people ask me, how many points should I buy? And again, without finding out further details, that's more of a broad number of points depending on what you need,
Is it the number one question you get?
I get it a lot. Yeah, it's almost every call will ask that question. Yeah.
How many points do you think I should buy?
Yeah. How many? What do you think I need here?
And it's kind of fun too because once you learn that there are others like you and that there's actually a list in existence where people own 1,000 points, you're like, oh, I'm not the only one. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and that was that was the experience I had when I first started the disboards.com. Was I know how I planned my trips, and I thought I was insane because I had for months, I would sit and literally map out every single thing I was going to do. I was looking at brochures and books, and because this was the age before the internet. And when I started the boards and started realizing that, I'm not alone here. There's a lot of us out there who are Uber planners. And I kind of felt that way last night when I saw that thread that, okay, I'm not the only one. And
not at all.
There is some comfort.
Oh yeah.
In that. There is some comfort in that.
I love every second of that because it's almost like when you're a parent for the first time and you have no idea what you're doing, and then you realize that there's a whole bunch of other parents that don't know what they're doing either, and you're like, oh yes.
So, all right, I think that'll do it for our discussion on how many points to buy. Again, if you're in the mood or the market to buy some points, head over to dvcstore.com or give them a call, 1-800-550-6493. They are an official sponsor of the Diz, so just want to make sure we get that out there for transparency. And that will do it. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week with another episode of the DVC Show. Have a great week, everybody.